Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 108, and today we're going to be doing battle in the Gauntlet. And so, as we prepare for this Gauntlet, I'm reminded a lot of this format is what we saw in the slightly post Sundisk and the we've kind of figured out how to beat the Sundisk era of the meta. Back then, a few months ago, we were seeing a ton of the likes of Victor, we're seeing a ton of the likes of Aphelios, and we're seeing a bunch of decks like Fizz Riven. And then the way that we went about attacking all of that stuff was using Stony Suppressors. We would pile that all into our Scouts decks, and then have the Stony Suppressors as a means to just slow down your opponent. You weren't going to beat something like Ezreal Tribeam with a Stony Suppressor, but if you could make them spend an extra 2 or 3 mana to stop all of their spells from being boosted, then that was typically enough to let you get an advantage and come out and win the game. Same thing kind of applies to the likes of Aphelios. If he's trying to pop off a bunch of Nightfalls to then cast Calibrums, if he's having to spend 2 mana, it makes it much, much more challenging to pull that off. And so the meta kind of changed a bit. Those decks kind of fell out of favor, but I think we've kind of gotten ourselves back to a space to where it's worth re-examining as we see the various flavors of Aphelios starting to rise to the top. The Aphelios Vise and Victors and Zoes of the world becoming quite popular at the top end of the Masters meta. And then, of course, the decks like the most popular one in the format right now, Annie Twisted Fate, are only playing like 6 or 8 or 9 real units. If you want to like not count Riptide Rex as a unit, they're playing like a really, really small unit count. And so that leads to them playing like 20 some spells in each of their decks, which is another place where you're pretty happy to play Stony Suppressors. You're pretty happy to have them against the likes of Nami Twisted Fate as well. And so just looking at that as just kind of like a small counter to those is kind of interesting and nice. Is like we went in our last Gauntlet, we played this big, heavy Ramp and Turbo Thrall's lineup. We managed to get the 4 victories out of it, but it didn't feel very good. And so now that kind of like, I think the next angle to that is, well, instead of playing a complete lineup devoted to trying to beat these decks, what if we just involve one card in our deck to try to give us a little bit of an edge in those matchups? And that's what we're going to try and do with the Stony Suppressor. And so the kind of like bonus to bringing these Stony Suppressor based lineups is a lot of the matchups that would be bad, like say we're again playing the big Blighted Ravine lineup that we did in the previous video. Is you're looking at things like Ari Bard, you're looking at things like tokens, and those are both pretty choice matchups for the most of the decks that we're bringing today. And so I think it's kind of an interesting shakeup, right? The kind of thing that I was drawn to thinking of is like years and years ago, back in the era of competitive StarCraft Brood War. I know it's probably before most of you were even born. But there was a time as to where the leveling that was happening was you would make an expansion because you knew how slow your opponent was going to be. And then your opponent was like, well, I know that you're making an expansion, so I'm just going to make 2 expansions before I start making units. And then the kind of next level to that was like, well, you know that your opponent's going to go for 2 expansions, so you're just going to go for 3, so you know that they can't come in and attack you back. And it was just this kind of like real leveling battle that was landing on these kind of like really super slow metas in the land of Brood War. But that's not what I think we can really look at here in terms of Runeterra, right? I feel like that's what we were trying to do with our Blighted Ravine lineup. We're saying, okay, well, if you're going to be playing Annie Twisted Fate, your deck's pretty slow. You're not going to be able to kill me in the early game, so I'm going to play these ramp cards. I'm going to play these decks that don't really do anything for the first 2 and 3 and 4 turns of the game. And if you're going to go slow, well, I'm going to go a little bit slower. And so I'm able to, take advantage of your slowness with just much more powerful cards. I'm going to spend a lot more mana than you this game. So that's the kind of Brood War leveling you were getting. That's what we were trying to pull off with that lineup. But I don't think the meta is defined enough to be able to try and pull things off like that. And so I think it's much safer to say, okay, well, you're trying to play slow, right? You're trying to play all of these spells. I'm just going to try and disrupt that a little bit, right? I'm not going to shut it down. I'm not going to try to stop it. I'm not going to try and build an entire deck to try to beat that idea. I'm just going to devote a little bit of my deck to that idea. And so I'm willing to weaken some of my other matchups just to make these a little bit more palatable. And so that's what I think we're going to be bringing to the table today. I pulled up the kind of meta sheets to see, kind of how this pulls off and how this fares. And I think it should be kind of okay. Like this is a kind of a two-parter of an idea, right? The part one is we're targeting some of these really popular decks. Anti-Twisted Fate is super loaded with spells. Twisted Fate Nami, Heimerdinger Jace, Aphelios Zoe Fi. These are all decks that are super spell heavy. And then with the lineup we're bringing, we should also still be pretty decent against tokens and pretty decent against Ahri Bard. And so that is the kind of, general idea with the lineup. But the second piece is we've been talking about the idea of the long tail, right? That is to where you have such a wide and varied meta that as you run across each of these matchups, there's a pretty decent chance that they're playing something fairly off meta or something fairly outside of the top 10. And as we played all of those various Blighted Ravine-based decks, they don't function that well once you get outside of the top 10. They just don't have good matchups against a long portion of that tail, to whereas decks like Scouts and decks like Poppy really can come in and take advantage of those. And so I think that, we're not going to have these kind of like all-star smashy lineups or smashy win rates that we got with the previous deck, but I think on the whole, we're going to be able to focus in on these pretty well and pretty strong. And so in terms of the decks we're bringing today, we are bringing the Stony Suppressor Scouts. We're only playing 2 copies of the Stony Suppressor here. We are playing things slightly different than what you might be used to in terms of Scouts. We do still play these 3 copies of Inspiring Light. I've still been quite happy with the likes of Inspiring Light. It's very easy for Scouts to get these fully wide boards, and then as you need to spend a little bit of mana, Inspiring Light can really allow you to take advantage of a full board. We have removed the Mirai Wardens. I'm not the happiest with it in the current meta. It's not the most fantastic time to be running around with 1 health, with all of the Twisted Fates and all of the Make It Rains running around. We did replace it with a Shell Shocker, which does, have 1 health, but it immediately replaces itself in terms of mana. And so those are the changes here. The format, again, is a little bit slower, and so we are playing 1 copy of Cytherea now. I think the world has kind of agreed that Genvivi is better than Cytherea in the current meta, but I think the format is slow enough that we can afford to play the 4 copies of the 6 drops. Our next deck that we're going to be playing is Galio Bard. This is pretty straightforward in terms of Galio Bard. We are really loaded up on the Challengers package. The only, again, odd things here, we're playing 3 copies of the Stony Suppressor, and that's kind of affected our spell count. We're only playing 3 Sharp Sights, and then the 4 Rallies. We aren't playing any Shield of Durandis. We aren't playing any Rangers Resolves. We are just looking to really curve out with units and hope to take full advantage of Bard along the way, and then not really hamstring ourselves too much with the likes of the Stony Suppressor. The last deck that we're going to be bringing is Yordles. This is the Poppy-based Yordles that we like to use. We've played with this a few times. Again, the new addition to the list that we'll be bringing here today is the addition of the Stony Suppressors, and then otherwise this is pretty straightforward if you're used to our Yordles lists. We aren't playing any Bandle City Mayors. We are only playing 2 Inspired Lights now that we've added in the Stony Suppressors, but this is a pretty straightforward Yordles list that we like to use. Develop these big boards, control the early games with your challengers, and then end up closing out the game with a rally. And so those will be the 3 decks we're bringing today. That's the big strategies that we're looking to pull off. I have checked to see if we paid the pay-to-win price, and when we're bringing Demacia, it's been paid. We have a couple of epics in there. Most of our champions are premium, and we're calling that good for the day. No commons or rares to turn premium. Okay, so with all that being said, let's get our decks in order here. It's so weird to me. In the previous video, everything came together fine. Our favorited decks were all put at the top. Oh, is it because they're in alphabetical order? And we just started every deck with the name Blighted, and that's why all our favorite decks turned up at the top. I thought it was pretty weird that we jumped in and our favorited decks were actually at the top. I was pretty sure that it just never happened that way, but it's the power of the alphabet. Look at that. Alrighty. Let's head to battle. See if we can't ruin someone else's prime glory. Again, I'm short on 1. it was kind of an odd set of weeks for me. I had one where I was just out of town and didn't get to play, but then I had another one to where I started in on a video. I wasn't happy with the first match that I recorded, so I was just like, I'll just start over. And I didn't realize that that canceled out our opportunity to get the Prime Glory. And so, in hindsight, I should have just kind of taken that additional video out, and then hopefully just said sorry. But this kind of lineup here is exactly what I'm talking about. You try to pick on a few certain decks in the meta, and then you run up against stuff like this, as to where it's just completely off kilter and not right in line with what everyone else is doing. And so this is where I feel like a little bit better when we're coming out here and playing decks like Scouts, is because they function against these kind of oddballs much better. And so in terms of this lineup, I'm going to come in and just cancel out the sea monsters. I'm not the hugest fan of playing against decks that are just trying to put big units on the board. It's like, that's what we're doing, and the sea monsters tend to do it a little bit better than what we're bringing, and so I'm going to go ahead and take those out, and then leave up the Sejuani. I would assume this is like a Sejuani Gangplank style deck, and then the Ionia-based Viego. So here, I'm going to start it off with the Yordles. I feel a little bit safer with playing the Bard deck against the other ones, and so I want 2 opportunities to play Yordles if we need to. Okay, up against Callista. So let's see here. I can't hang on to these Paparos. We'll hang on to our 1-drop, and then we're going to be on the search for our earlier game plays. Not a bad start. It'll be like the Petricite Broadwing never lost his challenger. And here, we don't want to be coming out and making trades, right? We're playing cards like Poppy. Poppy functions much better if you have a full board, and so there's no need to come down and just trade with this Warden's Prey. We aren't trying to be this super aggressive face damage kind of thing. We're looking to be more along the lines of a board control deck, to where we get the full board, we play a Poppy, Poppy grows all of our units, we play a Rally, Poppy grows them all again. Okay. Can handle him nicely with our Laurent Protégé. This is where things can get a little bit awkward for us. We're not playing the likes of, say, like the guy that makes 4 Demacia to grow our boards. We really need to be hitting the Poppy or the Lulu or the Inspiring Lights with situations like this. We drew all early game stuff here, and I'm a little bit worried that we're just not going to have enough power on the board. Okay, well, glad the drain hit before we attacked. Doesn't really. I'm always surprised when we see the Withering Mists come out. It's not one that I typically expect to hit, but it usually booms us pretty good whenever it does. The Scribe of Sorrows. Okay. Like if he adds a Ravenous Butcher back to his hand, that doesn't seem like it's gonna feel very good. He hit the Warden's Prey though. Okay. We can try and manage. So let's play the Suppressor last. I want to get the full board here. Like, if this guy is gonna come out and play something like a Withering Whale, I mean, fine, you got us. But here, I kind of feel like we can get a full board. We can get the Tiny Shield down. We should be able to get a decent hook. And then see where this gets us. It's okay enough if he plays Viego here. We can still take him down with a Lulu-based challenge. But now we have a little bit of a safer board to deal with. Says, oh shit, Bust is bringing the Stony Suppressors. My spells are so expensive now. Okay, and a Chempunk Shredder makes an appearance. Alright, so we're going to be losing a unit either way. We'll go about it like this. clear out as much board as we can. Wasn't quite expecting things like ethereal remitters, but we get to ace his whole board, hang on to one of our challengers, still have a pretty good board here. We just need a bit of our top end, and we should be popping off. It's not happening.
My shield is yours.
Interesting choice. I can't imagine they have too much in the ways of activating these sarcophagus. I think we'll be fine here. Okay. Lulu's good to get the attacks in now. He used to have to make a trade with a Lulu into a Callista, but that's not the way the game works anymore. Then we should probably just go ahead and drop the spear, right? Get this damage in while we can. Okay. We can protect our Lulu with a sharp sight. Seems strong. Is he really getting that boomed by the Stony Suppressor? It's wild. All right. These are the spaces where we really like the Inspiring Light, right? We've got 6 units on board. We have a unit in hand. We would prefer to not be overwriting anything. And you say, oh, cool, I'll just take the 12 stats. But not quite happening. There's a Poppy, though. All right. We don't actually have a blocker for the Hydrovine that isn't Lulu. That's a little unfortunate, but I think it's probably safe enough to just go ahead and get our board completely filled. Just overwrite some stuff and then probably win with the open attack next turn. I'll gladly trade away against the Butcher. Okay, so if he has like a Vile Feast for our Lulu, it's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. Let's just go ahead and get in front of these units where we can. Maybe we just take this 7. Like, he's never lethals this, right? Even if he has an Atrocity, we're still safe. Okay. Now we can drop Poppy, hook the Hydrovine out of combat, and we should be good to go. Sure. Sad day for Lulu. Right, not bad. He's going to have to answer quite a bit of stuff here. We have the sharp sight to push through an extra point of damage to hit the 4 we need. I think we're good. This was all on the back of the Stony Suppressor, wasn't it? We completely shut down his game. Alright, egg 6 is good enough. All right, feel pretty good. I mean, that was it feels like a matchup to where he doesn't have a full collection. We were seeing some. It reminded me a lot of playing Expedition, and I miss a lot of the factors coming out of that one. But there was definitely some cards in there that could have been upgraded to higher quality offerings. All right, on to the Viego battles again. So let's see. Like, I'd like to find just some of our earlier stuff. Seeing what we saw in the previous game, I would like to have some of our earlier chime generators. I feel like, excuse me, with like a single chime, we can just get super far ahead of everything he's doing. Didn't pick up anything here, but bird, perfect. Should we really be dropping the good Broadwing at this point? It's like I'm pretty tempted to just save it for the next turn and play a weaker Broadwing. Maybe could have gotten away with it. That's okay. We're still looking pretty strong here. Get to say, LOL, it's a Stony Suppressor. He brings in Callista. Callista is a pretty good answer to what we're bringing to battle here, but man, this Broadwing is so strong. I guess we'll go ahead and advertise it. So what I'm looking to do this turn is I'm going to play the Fleet Feather Tracker, and now it's like I'm trying to decide if we want to open with the Stony Suppressor. Really just kind of limit what they're able to do in terms of spells. Where did those hit? One on the Fleet Feather Tracker and one on Esmuth? Okay, we can follow up with Esmuth after we play the Suppressor. Did the mathematics on that one, and this Undying can't block. Sure. Okay, let's get a Callista out to the left. Bring the Undying in afterwards. Come in for 6 damage. Looks pretty good. I'm curious if he tries to follow up with like a Black Spear. And then next turn, we just get to play the bird and rally. Either way, we're going to be rallying next turn. Just a matter of whether or not we get out of this turn with our Stony Suppressor. Put up Genvivi. She's ready to party. Sacrifice for a great... All right, let's boost up our Broadwing here. We're just going to be trying to punch in damage with this one, and so we'll hook something with our 2/2. I need to see where we stand in terms of dealing damage. Just taking this every time, don't care. It's just like, can we lethal out of this? So we can hit for like 2, 4, 6, 7. So we're going to be a little bit short. Alright, so we'll come in and kill his unit. Those are our biggest hitters. Come in for 6. Sure. And then we can just go for an open kill next turn. Don't see any real reason to drop Genvivi, even though it's just fucking huge. So do we ever risk like not taking down the Cloven Way? I think we can. I think we can still just kill him. Right? Say he has a removal spell for bird and then hits the Broadwing or something. I don't know. I like that less and less. This just feels so much safer. I mean, he's only got 6 mana and we have the Suppressor on board. He can't even play a Vengeance this turn. And so I think we're much safer, even with him getting double units here. Like, what's he going to do? Play another Camaveran Soldier? We beat that. So, okay. I think we're good. Figuring it out. Should we drop a cupcake? Uh-oh. Our emotes are fucked. Oh, God. The worst. The worst thing possible. Uh-oh. He might have dropped his phone in the toilet, though. happens. There we go. All right. So cool. We got lethal coming through on 2 units. We get to challenge all of his units down without losing any of ours. Got it. Good. All right, let's fix that loadout though. God, that's embarrassing. Where are we at? I don't know if we need to fix any of our skins. We'll let that part slide. At the tavern, is it just the one deck that was messed up? Oh, here we go. Here we go. These are the problems. Tavern, cat, fist bump. This is very important. If you all don't know how to set this up, be surprised if you ever win a game. Get both of the echoes, Heartbreaker, Twisted Fate. All right, that one's good. And then the Yordles. The Yordles are set. All right, we're ready. Get to battle. That's embarrassing. But yeah, like that's kind of interesting seeing a lineup like that. Just in terms of the things you'll see in Gauntlet, where it's a little bit more wide open than you would typically see if you just showed up to like a Mastering Runeterra tournament this week. That's not something you're going to see there, but the same kind of like ideas and concepts still apply. That the meta is so kind of tight knit that it's. It's like that it's so wide open, you're still going to see a bunch of like rando lineups like this. These are all pretty meta decks, but if we were taking our big Blighted Ravine lineup into this, we would just get annihilated. And so we would have to count on beating Annie Twisted Fate twice. But in terms of how this one looks, I'm going to ban out the Lucian Hecarim. I think with our Stony Suppressors, we're hopefully lined up well enough to deal with the Twisted Fate deck. The matchups against the Blades, the tokens, is pretty decent. And the Hecarim decks tend to really just overrun and overwhelm what we're bringing to the table. So I'm going to start with Lulu Poppy. If it comes down to it, I would like to have access to Galio against the Twisted Fate deck. We'll see how these things break down and shake out, but if we have to have one second, that's the one that I would want. Get your shit together, Riot. Okay. Yordles against tokens. And so here we can pretty safely just get rid of the Stony Suppressor. This is not one of the matchups where we're looking to have access to it. And then the rest of our hand here is pretty good. We're going to have these Lulu powered challenges starting on turn 3. Okay, a little unfortunate. If he was going to play a Stony Suppressor, if he was going to play Sparring Student, I would have attacked. Because if they make a play here where he plays like Emperor's Diaz on this turn, then I would want him to just have no units on board. But now that he does have the Diaz, we at least have a good blocker onto his Doomkeeper. But right, if you get to shut down this attack completely, it really limits the amount of tokens they can generate. Really weakens their Azirs, weakens their Irelias. So pretty strong. The big kind of like bummer of a play that'll happen now is we can't take down an Azir, but we're going to be power challenging through anything that he plays here. Otherwise, even taking Azir down to 1 health is pretty good. Shuts him down from attacking at that point. He becomes a pretty safe hook later on. And so it's kind of nice. Okay, we're going to quick attack challenge down this Ribbon Dancer so we get to heal the Yordle Smith. He's going to be fresh to block on the next turn. Durandi Sculptor, of course, quite nice in these matchups, given that it can give us some additional health to just come down and block the Diaz tokens with. But see if we get him with the suppressor. Not yet. Not yet. But okay, we get a lot of good blocks on this board. We can hopefully challenge down the Gringlade duo next turn. Don't really want to lose any units. It wouldn't be like ultra upsetting to lose a Fleet Feather Tracker. Looks like we probably should be here. But all of our other units survive this combat. We can still completely refill our board next turn. We have the Yordle Smith and the Protege. We are pretty far away from lethal, though. He's definitely going to get to play another turn. Okay, that's fine. Lulu is not super important with what we're doing here. Like, his way to win the game is going to be with these elusives, and so, like, we knew we weren't going to lethal this turn. Okay, GG. And then we, unfortunately for this guy, we bring a lot of the same core across both of our decks, and so here with the Bard Galio, we are still playing this kind of Demacia core of the Fleet Feather Tracker, Petricite Broadwing, Durandi Sculptor, and Barrier Maker. There we go. But unfortunately for opponent, we are still playing things like Laurent Protege in this. All right, not a bad start. I'm ready. Let's get the bird down. Again, given the chance, if he attacks, we'll block. If he doesn't, maybe this is a spot to where we would just kind of like let it slide, since we do just plan to play Esmuth here. But definitely like taking down these units if we can.
I can learn from watching you.
Absolutely fine. Nice little 2-for-1. And Sharp Sight. Beautiful. Okay, looking to just drop the Broadwing here. Then next turn we'll play another Broadwing with Esmuth. Hopefully get some bonuses put on our Silverwing Vanguard should we need them. I think he's just trying to protect his Azir. I think we can safely take this 3. And then next turn look to do an Esmuth hook into Azir. See where these chimes go though. Didn't hit the double bird. Okay. Oh, Diaz is not what you want on this. You're looking pretty strong now. Okay, so we want to take down the Azir. I don't want to put the bonus onto the Broadwing this turn. I'd like to have both of our elusives to have 1 attack. So if he starts playing Gringlade duos, both of our units are capable of bringing a kill on it. This one should be pretty close to done. It's going to take us a few turns of damage to try and close it out, but our board is quite strong here. Yep, GG. Pretty easy. But see, that's kind of like everything with the deck all coming together, right? We have the good matchups against tokens, we have the good matchups against Ahri Bard, but then we're just like only adding like the smallest of addition to our deck and the Stony Suppressors to really kind of strengthen up that Twisted Fate match. But even with the Stony Suppressors against the likes of tokens, it does let you come in and just block through multiple times. Right, you can get 3 blocks on it out of the Emperor's Diaz things. But here coming into this, I'm happy enough to let Annie Aphelios stick around. This is kind of like a 2-pronged attack against it, in that we have all the challengers for Annie, and then we have the Stony Suppressors for whatever Aphelios stuff he's trying to do. The Lurkers matchup isn't horrible. It isn't great. I think it is slightly in their favor, but again, I'm going to come in and ban out this Ephemerals matchup. It's just they throw so many stats at us, it feels pretty bad. Okay. And if we have to play a deck twice, we'll play Yordles twice. I would imagine he's going to start with his Lurkers here, but we'll see. Premium Pikes. All right, well, that's a curve. He's dead. This guy knows what he's about. Which is this the new one? This is the with the skins that were just released, right? This isn't like World Breaker Pike. It's cool. Okay. This can put them in kind of like an awkward space if they don't have a unit on board to make the attack. He's going to have a unit here. Otherwise, he wouldn't. He just like wouldn't have blocked. But anytime you can come in and just like wear out their board, it's pretty strong to force them into not being able to open attack and force them into just putting units down. I'm curious if he has to like throw down the free attack guy. The guy that just attacks as soon as you play him. This is about as safe as a spot as you can find for him. At least let him try to build up some board. But at least in terms of our side, I want to get this Durandi Sculptor down. It's pretty important to try and pick up some 2-for-1s in the early game. Because as soon as our units get up to like 3 and 4 attack, you just have to trade with everything. And so if we can pick off like 1 or 2 units in the early game, because the Sculptor passed out some health, incredibly important, incredibly powerful. Might have dropped his phone in the toilet though. It happens. He was so upset about that block onto his Lurker that he just dropped his phone right in the toilet. Taking that shit at work, trying to get a break. It's a little tough with Gauntlet though. Like I approve if you're gonna sign up for a Gauntlet match while you're taking a shit at work, just be offline for an hour. I approve Colossal. Alright, well, this game and match should be done in short order. I think it just cancels out if he's AFK when the next match starts. Oh, he's back. Interesting.
Where's my hammer?
Maybe he wasn't just dropping a dookie. Who knows? All right, but we do have this interesting sequence now. We can look to just play Poppy, but what I typically look to do here is to just go ahead and drop the Fleet Feather Tracker. Well, hang on. Are we just really just going to go for board here? We can use the Golden Aegis on his next turn. So let's go ahead and play the Stony Suppressor. Maybe this will get a shutdown on like a Predict or like a Call the Pack, whatever the Rek'Sai flip is. And then we can look to, see, Bloodbait. Costs more now. That sucks, doesn't it? Excellent. Then we can plan to Golden Aegis on opponent's next attack token. So we'll play the 2 trackers now. We'll drop Poppy on our next turn, and then look to get the big Golden Aegis game closer a turn from now. Does manage to hit his lurk. A little unfortunate. We don't have to throw Poppy in there. Let's be real. Okay. Pretty good. I think we're pretty far and well ahead now. Okay, I'll load up Poppy with the protection. He can't play something like a Death from Below now. He could have the strike thing from the what's it called? You strike and then put a card on top of your deck, but I don't think we're too worried about that here. This is just lethal, right? Yeah. GG. Oh. Mark it a W for the good guys.
You'll get me next time.
All right. Onward with our scouts. More Stony Suppressors coming at you. Pay the mana for your blood baits, bro. Only 2 Suppressors in this list, though. We aren't playing the full 3 in our scouts. We did start with it, and let's be real, I don't really want it in this matchup. We're being kind of memey with it in terms of playing against Lurkers, so we are going to shuffle it away. Definitely hang on to Shell Shocker, though. Okay, if we're offering up a trade on the first turn, I want it to be with him. We have the opportunities to get some good Fleet Feather Tracker plus Misfortune hooks on our next attack. Alright, well you can have that one. How choice would that have been if he missed? You missed that lurk, the game is just pretty much over. Right? We get to block with the Sculptor, he loses his unit. But, okay.
A little reinforcement at the seams. I've got your back.
I'm leaning towards just, well, we probably shouldn't attack with the Sculptor. It's like, he's going to trade kind of regardless of what they play, but we might get the opportunity to get a point of health next turn, which could be pretty important if we play the Broadwing first. So we'll leave the Sculptor at home. Offer up the attack with the Bright Steel. Oh, cool. We still get the trade. Beautiful, beautiful. So now we'll definitely get a point of health out of the Sculptor. And Jin Vivi, a little slow.
Slight adjustment.
Okay. So I think we're just going to have to start doing like Golden Aegis attacks this turn. It's like the mana just doesn't quite work out for us to be able to say play Jin Vivi next turn, pick up the rally, get the attack with her, the scout attack, and then get a second attack afterwards. I think we just have to start dropping Golden Aegises here, and then look to flip the Misfortune 2 turns from now. We can take all of this down.
Fresh out of mercy.
So we get this attack. We could put the Aegis onto our Broadwing. Right? Hook down the Under Titan. We're looking pretty good. It was a pretty big investment to not get any attacks out of. we start emoting yet? Is it time? Probably not time. It's a little it's a little ambitious to drop him right now. Rip Misfortune. How big is Pike? Only a 3/3? You're so small, bro. So we'll likely just be taking this 7 here. It's a little bit unfortunate. But we kind of have like we'll have a better attack onto Pike next turn. Interesting he's not attacking with Pike here. I'd say unless he just knows he missed his lurk. Oh, he hit the big lurk. F. So it's like really tough for us to get 2 good Genvivi attacks in next turn. Really turned the corner with this Pike. Alright, let's just take it and wait and see what we draw. If we pick up like a barrier, then the draw gets really good, or if we pick up an Inspired Light so that we can grow our Genvivi a little bit. Neither of those hit, and then we're mana short of the 4 Demacia. This is all fairly painful. But let's see what we can do. We might find ourselves just making a normal attack this turn and not making a scout attack.
My strength is yours.
Right, the scout attacks are just never getting in as much damage as we need. We ever just pass here? God, he just, like, we're never lethaling and he didn't deliver any damage. Like, the thing to worry about now is he might be able to flip his Pike. But that just didn't feel like a good attack. I mean, but look at this now. Like, we can block a couple of units, sure. Ooh, that was actually good. He only killed 2 of our dudes. I think we're still going to struggle with this one, but Andy hits. Damn. Okay, so we die if he has the Lurk card, right? You can deal 1 damage to anything with the Rally Lurk spell, but this gives us an opportunity next turn with the 4 Demacia. We might get to pull something off. I mean, if he has Jawfish or whatnot, this isn't going to go well, but this is our only real opportunity to turn this game around. Yep. Oh, that was brutal. That was brutal. I feel like we were just like right on the edge of taking that one down. Well, that's what happens when you manage the luck fest that is Pike. such a poorly designed card. Alrighty, let's see if the suppressors can hold up against Annie here. Alright, so we'll hang on to the bird, get rid of everything else. Look for our cheaper plays, our misfortunes, our Stony suppressors. Looks good. High quality collection of bros to hang out with here in the early game. So, like, what's the worst that could happen here? Is that they play... I think we just want to drop the suppressor. It does give him, you know, the knowledge that the annoying stuff's about to happen, but like if he plays something like House Spider, then our attacks are all just garbage. And so I think this is pretty nice in terms of we can play the suppressor. He's going to have to spend a bunch of mana to try and get this thing off of the board. Now we're in a spot to where, before we even drew Misfortune, we were in a spot to where we could play Broadwing now and then double Brightsteel Protector next turn, have a lot of control over this board. But like we don't even need a lot of that now. Looks good. Sure. So now we can't play anything like Ravenous Flock because of our Stony Suppressor.
That good.
I like it. So who do we go for now? Do we go for the Broadwing or do we go for the Island Navigator? And I'm leaning towards the Navigator. Again, it should be pretty tough for him to come down and answer this Misfortune. These aren't any like super high valued units at this point since Annie is kind of ignorable. And so I think this is fair. Looks like he's going for Misfortune this turn. That's okay.
Always forward.
You like spiders?
When he asked, do you like spiders? I feel like that's just a D's Nuts joke in the waiting. It's just right there. Oh, wow. He stuns Misfortune, but then doesn't have any cards? Oh, that just seems horrible for you, my friend. But let's go ahead and deal with the Annie. He does get to block with his 3/2s, or his 2 health units, but that's not the hugest of deals. We're about to immediately refill the board. Wow, that's pretty incredible though. That like, why is he stunning Misfortune and then playing House Spiders? That's kind of odd to me. Like she's the unit that we aren't particularly excited about attacking with this turn.
Whoa! I can see the magic.
We were peaceful once. I've got your back.
All right. See what happens here. Oh wow, he's really down low. He's only got 1 real card left in his hand. That can't feel good, my friend. This attack seems horrible as well.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
I think he's kind of unsure of what to do and has really just kind of given up on this game. Again, he can't play any spells because of our Suppressor, so the Misfortune block is free. Looks good.
This is our way.
Right. Here's a scout attack. And so it's like, we could have considered, say, just opening with Brightsteel Protector onto Misfortune so that we protect her on this turn where she's out here trying to flip, but I just don't think it's going to matter. Like, if he has to invest his 2 cards in hand to kill Misfortune and all of his mana, then we're still just going to win that game anyways. GG. Told you the Suppressor's good against this stuff. I think that's probably realistically an opponent that has just never played against it. And it's like you have all these play sequences already like mapped out in your brain, like the plays that you're used to, and then the Suppressor comes down and that's all just wiped away. Like, I would not have been completely surprised that he was in a spot to where he's like, okay, I'm going to play this Stun Spider, and then I'm going to Ravenous Flock, and then he played the Stun Spider, and then just like, fuck, I don't have the mana for this, and then he went into another turn, tried to make another awkward play like that. It usually adds up and gets really tilting if the rules of the game change and you aren't expecting it or you aren't used to reacting to it. Alrighty, pretty similar to what we've been seeing. I'm curious if this Callista Elise is an Iceborne Legacy deck, right? You have the 2 Shadow Isles champions plus the Freylord. I ultimately worry about the Alawi decks. Alawi is pretty strong against things like Scouts and like Yordles, since like our game plans don't really mesh that well. So that's the one I'm looking to take out, but I'm not sure how scared I should be of this Callista. That's interesting. I don't know if it'll... I mean, I guess you could be playing, like, Mist Wraiths, but then also looking to have Iceborne Legacies in it. Not entirely sure there. Here, I'll hang on to the Sculptor. We need to find some earlier plays, though. Not a particularly good mulligan. But the Sculptor's, kind of similar to the Suppressor in this match, in that if they're trying to play a bunch of Make It Rain style cards, We're able to give our units some bonus health, and we can survive a lot of what they're bringing at us. Really need our curve to stop sucking, though. That would be nice. Never blocking here if he attacks. I don't want to risk our Sculptor to a Ravenous Flock.
Quest will be over quicker and you can fry a ferret.
Okay, we might be able to get this free attack in this turn. If he doesn't have like a Stun Spider or something to shut down the Yordle Smith. Stun Spider is actually pretty reasonable for us here anyways. Okay. Given that it can... he can't play any more cards if he drops it, right?
Trick is to swing harder.
I would expect a Ravenous Flock to come down. Oh. Okay. I wonder if we ever find ourselves able to boom them because we have this Inspired Light. Like if he's trying to set up like another AoE. Comes a red card. Okay. So our units all survived for this turn. Now we can add Poppy, and then we can open with the Brightsteel Protector to keep her from dying to the burn spells. The downside to that kind of play is if he has a oh my gosh, he's got the Ravenous Flock. Let's just take this 2 damage. I was gonna say if we could like open the Inspired Light onto Poppy, then it wouldn't be as bad, but
My shield is yours.
okay.
Keep up.
Ooh, just a zap? That's exciting. So here, I don't really want to get the Brightsteel Protector down. He doesn't add that much to the board, but with the Inspired Light, if this is successful, everything just really gets to pop off here. Okay.
Ready, hammer? Steady hands. Ready.
A lot of serious damage coming through.
You can't do this.
Something the matter.
Interesting he's hanging on to Steve over the zap. Like he's just not relevant often. This is where we get him. We get him with the suppressor. Uh-oh. Maybe. Maybe. Oh, come on. What's this? Does he have a Disintegrate play? A Death's Hand. Okay. Not that scary. So the scary thing for us now is he's gonna get Tybalak in hand, and so we really need to be kind of opening into him next turn. We might be able to punch through though. I mean, our Poppy's gonna flip, and our suppressor stays max health. Okay, I'm not scared of Tybalak anymore. This is fine.
You're covered.
So we'll protect our Poppy. He's either going to play his big unit. Okay, perfect, perfect. There's Paparo. Fortunately can't play the Yordle, but our attack here should be good enough. All of our units are going to get the +2/+2 and impact. Okay.
For Demacia! No backing down.
Nobody respects the Yordles, man. They dominated literally every match today. Nobody. I'm the only one. I've made like 3 Yordles videos. Nobody cares. Just annihilating shit with these. I saw a tweet from like Jay Sensational the other day that was like, didn't realize Paparo the Great even existed. Oh man.
You'll get me next.
It's good stuff. He's good. All right. Nice little matchup there. See if we can't take the scouts to the final victory. He switches to Callista. Okay. reasonable start. I don't think we want the Stony Suppressors here. Again, like, I have to imagine this is some kind of like Fearsome's Mist Wraith deck, or it's either like Fearsome's Mist Wraiths, or it's going to be Spiders, neither of which we want the Stony Suppressor for. So the Durandi Sculptor isn't that exciting either, but it at least gives us a bit of interactivity. Kind of leaning towards just opening here. Like, I don't want to waste the Brightsteel this turn. Like, in the days of old, I would go ahead and play the Brightsteel since it gives us a blocker against an Elise. But now that it only has 2 attack and it can't block Fearsomes, I think we're kind of stuck attacking with the Bird, following up with the Sculptor, and then trying to get, say, like Vanguard Sergeant down next turn. Interesting, he doesn't have plays, though. I guess Elise isn't on our list of worries right now. Okay, Spiders it is. So this has to be like Iceborne Legacy Spiders, right? Curious if we shouldn't have just gone ahead and blocked. Like, he's not going to have 6 mana this turn, so I guess we're like safe here to see if we come out and draw a Misfortune. But, like, I don't know. That's close. We do have the Bright Steels to try and take some of these down as well. Boy. Oh. Guess we'll bring the squad. Was not expecting Blighted Ravine out of a Spiders deck. Rip team. See you guys. Okay. Works for me. Really looking for a 4 Demacia next turn. I think we can fairly safely take this Arachnoid Horror damage, but like, what's he gonna do to Quinn next turn? Not anything, right? So here's one of the situations where the Shell Shocker actually gets kind of interesting, right? We can still Shell Shocker. He's technically free. And so he's going to give us extra bonuses for our 4 Demacia this turn. But we're looking to add the Shell Shocker. Maybe we should have led with Brightsteel Protector, because my intent is to bonus up Valor. It's like if Valor gets hit with a... if Valor got hit with a Vile Feast, that would have really messed up our sequencing here, to whereas the Shell Shocker didn't really do anything. Now this is good. I'm gonna ace his board. Okay. Still going to attack with Callista. Like, he can't have Vile Feast, right? If he didn't lead the Vile Feast onto our Valor, well, I guess he could, right? The Brood Awakening gives him 3 tokens, but man, I have to imagine if he had the Vile Feast, he would have dropped it on Valor. Picked up the big counter spell. All right, we got him. GG. And so, yeah, I think that was at least a pretty interesting showcase of the lineup, right? A lot of the stuff that I think we would expect to be happening did there. We played against a variety of Annie decks. They both struggle with the challengers, right? The challengers against Annie are pretty good. We ran against that Annie Aphelios kind of deck. Things seemed a little odd there once we dropped the Suppressor. It seemed like they didn't know how to react to it, but that's the kind of place where it should be really good. Again, you're not getting like a full KO. You don't just play the Stony Suppressor and say, oh, sweet, I just won the game because I played this 2-drop. But it should, like, tempo-wise, really slow them down. It should make them spend at least an extra 2 or 3 mana to take the unit down. And then you kind of run into this space as to where do they want to either devote their resources to taking down the Stony Suppressor, or do they want to devote their resources to taking down Misfortune? And then at that point, they just have to leave the suppressor on the board the whole game. And so it gets you into some like really interesting play patterns against those Annie decks. Same against all of the various spells-based decks, like all the Aphelios decks. But then we're still good against tokens, right? And so that's why I'm like much more interested in a lineup like this than we would be in, say, a lineup like our previous one with all the Blighted Ravine decks. We're just giving up like a small edge against a lot of the field to play the Stony Suppressor, but it gives us like the big edge in a lot of matchups that actually matter. And so incredibly powerful. Like it kind of like a lot of ebb and flow in seeing when it comes down, but it's one of these cards I don't feel like ever really gets the respect it deserves. I think the big problem a lot of people run into with the Stony Suppressor is you look at like Scouts as a aggro deck, right? You're trying to say, okay, well, I'm going to curve like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to play a 1-drop into Suppressor, into Misfortune, into a Scout unit, into Quinn, and I'm going to be doing all these attacks every turn. And that's not like realistically how a lot of these games sequence. And it should become like more obvious to you as you've gotten like familiar playing with like Durandi Sculptor, as to where you play the Sculptor, you don't attack on 2 because you don't want to trade it, and you just kind of build up a bunch of value. A lot of the same things apply with the Stony Suppressor, just out there building up value, and then you get to use your 4 Demacias and your Genvivs and your Poppies of the world to boost all of your board at once instead of just boosting 2 or 3 units. And once you kind of like soak in that idea, the play patterns all work out much, much better, and a lot of the power gets unlocked when you're giving, plus 10 stats instead of giving plus 4 stats. And so pretty interesting stuff. A good run with this. I'm going to have to like really consider if a lineup like this is what we're going to bring to our Last Chance Gauntlet next week. Again, everyone knows I love Scouts. I'm a big fan of the Yordles deck, and not too many people running either of those. And so I think it may end up being an actual pretty good place for both of them. But nonetheless, we will have to see how things shake out over the next week. But that is going to do it for us today. And so I hope everyone enjoyed the video. We learned to suppress the spells a little bit better. Maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.